As a world, we are going through a difficult time. And what God is asking us to do is to reimagine church. It's a call for the church to rethink its very purpose on earth. Not to be on social media alone, but going out, because there's a world outside that is crying out. And the only group that can actually meet the need is the Church of Jesus Christ. We are not here to entertain each other, to just meet with each other, but we are here to equip each other so that we together can make an impact in the world in which we live. And this morning, I want to look at a passage from Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. The context is given to us in chapter 8, verses 19 to verse 22. It is talking about a context in which the prophet Isaiah actually tells us the situation in which the good news comes to us that a child is born. And the context is mentioned as, in one word, hopelessness. The sense of hopelessness is captured so well here. God is upset because the people of Israel, instead of, consulting God's instruction, they were consulting, it says, mediums and spirits and even dead. The desperate need to make sense of what is happening. Not only did they look around for an answer, distressed and hungry, they roamed through the land. It affected their physical condition, total breakdown. And all that they could do is curse God. Everything around them looked distress and dark and fearful gloom. Even in our time, because of the uncertainty around, people are looking for meaning. They want to know an answer as to what is happening. We have gone through a difficult time. This Christmas is going to be a painful time for many families. Many people have handled it well. You can see the difference between those who know God, who know Jesus Christ personally, and those who don't know. Not only in terms of physical situation of death, but also people losing their jobs. And then, of course, the number of people who are going through mental issues. People live in a world where they are totally worried about the future. Many people are not sure what 2022 holds because man's confidence in himself has gone. 2019, man suddenly realized that he, for all the confidence he had, was suddenly in a place where he was totally helpless. But this morning, as we look at this passage, there's one word that stands out for me. Chapter 9, verse 1. Nevertheless. I like that. Nevertheless. And my prayer is that our celebration of Jesus' birth this year will be an announcement to the world. Nevertheless. Yes, the world is in a hopeless situation. People are in despair. Nevertheless, things are going to change. And he gives 5 important things. Firstly, God will honor Galilee of the nations. In fact, it says later on, verse 3, he will enlarge the nation. Galilee was not seen as a place where anything good would come out. In fact, it was one of those small places with a bad reputation. Nevertheless, the land will be honored. Those who have been humbled will be lifted up. Those who were in the margins will suddenly be the most significant people. The second thing that he says is here in verse 2, on those living in the land of deep darkness, the light has dawned. With the coming of the child, Jesus said, you are the light of the world. When God is with us, we become the light. And so when we celebrate Christmas this year, the light has dawned upon us. I hope our Christmas celebration is not simply church-centered. It will be in our families. Because there, the people will begin to see, nevertheless, this family has gone through a difficult time. In this family, at the end of 2 years, see the way they're celebrating. In chapter 9, verse 3, a third characteristic of what happens when the child comes is that there is a change in our attitude. He will change our mourning into dancing. The whole atmosphere changes because a child is born. The fourth thing it says is that liberation from the bondage we have to sin. The gospel was a news of freedom. So basically what we are saying is that the coming of the child was the announcement of that breaking of bondage. Jesus said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me to bring good news, to announce freedom for those who are prisoners, for those who are oppressed." And very important, may our celebration be a celebration of these facts, that firstly, the humble have been lifted up. Secondly, light has come on us. Thirdly, the joy that God brings. Fourthly, the liberation, the freedom that we have. The fifth one is verse 5, which says, the end of violence. So often it comes in the prophets. God will break their weapons into plowshares. There will be security on the streets. And basically what we are seeing is the gloom is over. And nevertheless, God has acted. But how did he act? And so we go to verse 6. For unto us a child is born, a son is given. That is our hope. We are not simply celebrating, an event which is over, but an event that we celebrate as an experience that is real for all of us. And now there are two important things that we notice about this child who is born. One of the important things is that child was God's solution. And it's very few people who see that solution in the child. Two of my favorite characters in the Christmas story are two people who were old people, Simeon and Anna. Simeon was in the temple. He looked for the day when the Messiah would be born. And when Joseph and Mary came to the temple with the child, Simeon held the child and he said, "My eyes have now seen." And there was this lady, Anna, 80 years old. When she saw the child, she went and told others who were waiting for the kingdom of God and said, "Hey, I have seen the redemption of God." We live in a time when there's so much of faithlessness. Prayer, our petitions have to be presented to God on a paper called faith. You can't deceive God. And very important for the church to be a community that sees that God is able, because of what God has done for us in Jesus. We can look at the future with confidence. There are four interesting characteristics of the child. The wonderful counselor. He is the one who is guaranteed to counsel us through the situation. Comforted by Jesus in a very special way. And secondly, he's the mighty God. The one who is able to do great things. That is why the child is special. Everlasting Father. The characteristics of this Father, the caring Father. And that is guaranteed. And then it says, his name shall be called the Prince of Peace. So the child, firstly, is the one who is our assurance as we go through difficult times. And definitely God is going to change things. And he invites us to experience him. The second thing it says, which is very important, his government will be on his shoulder. Governments will come and go. And it says, he will establish and uphold it with justice and righteousness. From that time when the child is born, the kingdom has been inaugurated. One day, the kingdoms of this world will become the kingdom of our God. And he will establish. And how will he do it? It says here, the zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. People are crying for justice and righteousness. We can go to God and say, God, please give us leaders who are in line with your purpose. Because it is his purpose. Christmas is a celebration of hope. It is that hope that we have as we go on into the future to say that a child is born, a son is given, and the government is upon his shoulder. And we will see that government being established wherever we are, whatever situation we are in. It may be a situation of despair as far as the world is concerned. Nevertheless, a child is born, and because of which we celebrate. There is joy, there is hope, there is meaning, and there is participation in what God is doing. We are in a place where we celebrate the victory of God when he sent a child into the world. A child is born, a son is given.